Hi, mystery writers. Well, today I want to talk about the beginning of your story, how you introduce your mystery to your reader, because it's so important. You want them to keep going. The first few pages of your story tell the reader whether they want to read more. Um, your reader won't want to wait for you to get ready to begin to commence. Your opening pages are the appetizer for the main meal of your story. And the first 10 pages or the first chapter will set your reader's expectations for the rest of the book. If you want them to continue through the next 300 pages or so, you have to give them a good reason to keep reading. You want to tempt your readers with anticipation of a good read. Right at the beginning is the time to introduce your story and the story elements as well. How you tell your story now creates your reader's desire to continue. So now's the time that you want to show how you'll tell the story. Deciding how to start your mystery influences everything that comes later in your story. Knowing your need to introduce your detective, you'll need to make a story so you can set your story in motion. So there's like a little mini story at the beginning. Right away, your reader will know the point of view, if it's first person or third person, and you demonstrate the narration and that narrator's voice. And you set the tone for the story: dark, dramatic, thoughtful, touched with humor, whatever that style is, whatever that tone of your storytelling, because you're going to set it now and it's going to continue through the rest of your story. And if you change the tone later, your reader will feel cheated by the beginning. So you don't want to do that. You want to set the tone so the reader also knows what to expect from the tone of the story. Um, if you switch the tone later, it's like one of those bait and switch sales, and you start out one way, but then, oh no, the story's really like this. Readers feel tricked, and they don't want to feel tricked. And also be true to your genre. If your story's a mystery, hint at how you're setting up the puzzle. And of course, you want to introduce your protagonist. Right away, introduce your protagonist. Give them a name, introduce them in action, show skills that they're going to use later to solve the major mystery puzzle. Now, give your reader a taste of who that sleuth is. You're not going to be at the inciting incident yet or have a discovered body, but you can give your reader a sense of how your protagonist sleuth will meet more significant challenges later in the story. You want your reader to care enough about your protagonist to be their eyes and ears through the story, because your detective is like their guide through the mystery puzzle. And you get your reader to care by developing empathy. You have the rest of your novel to expand on the setting and introduce other characters and plunge your detective into the mystery puzzle of your story. But for now, right at the beginning, you want to build empathy between your reader and your detective. And the best way to build empathy is to show your sleuth in action, responding to a challenge. The challenge doesn't need to be big, but you must show your reader how your sleuth responds to a challenge, even a small one. They're going to get clues about their personality, they're going to get clues about how your sleuth operates. Um, and One other way to build that empathy is to introduce at least one character opinion, how your character thinks about something. Your sleuth will have opinions about the people they meet and the world around them, so let your reader see what those opinions are. Um, a stated opinion creates an immediate emotional connection for your reader. It doesn't matter if your reader even agrees with the opinion, they just know that your sleuth has opinions, and the opinion is the reader's view into your character's psyche. Uh, so give them an opinion. And of course, you want to be in the story world. You want to introduce your reader to the story. You want to ground your reader in the place and time right away. Give them some details about your character's surroundings. Is it urban or rural, coastland or inland, small town or city? The setting doesn't matter. You just want to ground your reader in where your story is taking place at this time. What matters is showing your readers where they are and how your protagonist responds to his or her surroundings. Is it present day with everyone wearing masks, or Victorian London, or 14th century France? The time of your story reflects cultures and mores that may or may not be familiar to your reader, so help them understand that story world. One caution is that beginning writers can mistake the everyday world of the protagonist for daily activities like eating or getting up, or a multitude of mundane tasks. And that's not it. That's not what everyday world means for a story beginning. You want to show your protagonist interacting with the world and the people in it. You want to give your reader a sense of how that character deports themselves. How do they interact with other people? Are they mild mannered? Are they snarky? Give them a taste of your character. Let them get involved. Let them care about your character. And of course, the other thing that you want to show your reader right at the beginning, and this goes along with the tone of your story, is the prose style. Do you write short, snappy sentences, or do you play with words and syntax? Whatever your prose style, you'll want it to remain consistent throughout the story. So, right now at the beginning, you're giving them a taste of how you, the author, tell the story, because if they like it, they're going to keep reading. Um, how you write is your story's voice. If you write in the first person point of view, your main character, the storyteller, will guide your prose style, and you have control over the third person point of view through your vocabulary and syntax. And once again, your prose style needs to remain consistent throughout the story. Readers have preferences, so make sure your beginning shows how you write the story. Um, Editor Cheryl Clark said in a recent article, it's the words you choose for the character to say. Do they describe their grandma as pretty feisty for an older lady, or a tough old vulture? So think of the words you use uh, um, as your prose style. To continue on with the quote, it's the way they think which directs the thoughts you give them and which insights or blind spots they have. And there's just so much to the beginning of your story. So another component is action. And you really want action. But action needs to be meaningful for the character and for the story. Action, just to have action, isn't meaningful. Worse, it's a tease for your reader. A smaller action that reveals your hero's character is more meaningful than like a big fight scene. You build story context with small actions showing your character interacting with their world. You build the meaning later. Now, at the beginning, you just want to give them a taste of how they act, action by action. In the beginning, think of your protagonist with a challenge, however small, that reveals character traits and sets up future conflicts to those character traits. Um, S.A. Cosby masters this technique for each character in Blacktop Wasteland. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. Um, so, what are your hero's main stakes for taking action? And do the action and the stakes foreshadow the bigger conflicts that come later in the main story? So the main story doesn't start later after the first few pages. It starts right now. So you want to create that movement right from the beginning. And when you plunge your hero into action, you move the story to the consequences of the action. That's why I'm saying it doesn't have to be big right here at the beginning. It just needs to show, to demonstrate to your reader who this character is and are they the kind of character they will like and care about. When you plunge your hero into action, you move the story to the consequences of the action. And immediately your reader wants to know what will happen next. And boy, that's a thing you want to keep doing through the rest of your story. What will happen next? And the reader needs to ask that question from the very beginning. That's why action is just such a great way to start your story. So, how your hero responds to the action and what decisions they make afterwards lead the reader to ask more questions. And without a hint of the story to come, there's no reason for your reader to keep going. So, you want them to start asking those questions right at the beginning. And then here's the hard one, the first sentence. Some writers save working on the first sentence until they have completed the whole first draft of the manuscript because it's the most important sentence in the storyline. Um, Jacob Appel said an opening line should have a distinctive voice, a point of view, a rudimentary plot, and some hint of characterization. Now, that's a lot of things for one sentence to do, and that's why it's so important. Um, so take your time. Don't worry about getting it right at the beginning. I know for me in my story, I had a first sentence. I knew what I wanted to have happen, but now that I'm deeper into the story, I've gone back and edited that first sentence a couple of times. So as you continue writing, make a list of possible first sentences and keep refining until you have the sentence that plunges your reader directly into the story. So, who's on first with your story? It's you. You are the person who is creating this introduction to your story. And your job in the first chapter is to bring the reader into the story. The old adage is never more true than for story beginnings. You have one chance to make a first impression. So you define the course of the story in the opening sequences, and the beginning is your story's first impression. And the beginning starts the reader on a path to the conclusion, to solving that mystery puzzle, and you want to plant the first seeds so they can grow as the story progresses. Okay, that's a lot of things to think about for your opening, but your opening is so important for your reader because this is your chance. This is your chance to Bring your reader in and bring them into the story. Get them to care about your character and get to them to see and experience the character's world. All right, I hope that helps, and I will see you next week. Keep writing.